The ship came out of faster-than-light travel with a soft hum. Through the wide windows, the humans could see Station Orbital Prime for the first time. It was massive. The station stretched across the darkness of space like a metal city, with lights blinking from thousands of windows. Ships of all sizes moved around it like fish swimming near a reef. Ambassador stood at the front of the observation deck. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had spent 30 years as a diplomat, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Humanity was about to meet the Galactic Coalition face to face. Behind him stood his team. There was Lieutenant, the security chief. She was a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes that never stopped moving. She had served in 3 wars and had the scars to prove it. Next to her was the medical officer, a quiet man who preferred books to battles. And then there was the youngest member of the delegation. She was 26 years old and barely reached 160 centimeters in height. She had a soft face and gentle eyes. Her black hair was tied back in a simple style. She wore a flowing dress in light blue that made her look even more delicate. Her official title was cultural, which meant she was supposed to help with understanding alien customs. The Coalition had sent a message to Earth 3 years ago. They had discovered humanity and wanted to meet. The message was polite but carried a hidden warning: join us or face the consequences. Earth had no choice but to accept. The human shuttle docked with the station. The doors opened with a hiss of air. Ambassador stepped out first, followed by his team. What they saw made several of them stop in surprise. The welcome party was not welcoming at all. 20 soldiers stood in 2 lines. Each one was nearly 3 meters tall. Their skin was covered in thick green scales that looked like natural armor. Their eyes were yellow with black slits, like the eyes of reptiles. They wore battle armor over their already tough bodies. Each one carried a weapon that looked big enough to destroy a small vehicle. At the front stood General. He was the largest present. His scales were darker than the others, almost black in some places. Old scars crossed his face. He looked at the humans the way a person might look at insects. Next to them stood 10 warriors. They were shorter than but much wider. Their bodies were covered in thick brown fur, and their faces looked somewhat like bears from Earth, but with 4 eyes and tusks. Their arms were as thick as tree trunks. They were known across the galaxy as the most brutal fighters in close combat. Commander Vex led the group. He had a metal plate bolted to his skull where he had lost fur in some ancient battle. His 4 eyes studied the humans with open disgust. "These are the humans." The voice was deep and rough. "They are even smaller than the reports said." Commander Vex laughed. It was an ugly sound. "I have seen prey animals with more impressive bodies." Ambassador showed no reaction to their insults. He stepped forward and bowed slightly. "General, Commander Vex, on behalf of Earth, I thank you for this meeting. We hope this will be the beginning of a peaceful relationship between our species." Did not bow back. He looked over the human delegation slowly. His eyes stopped on. "You bring a child to negotiations with warriors?" he asked. "Is this meant to be a joke?" Smiled softly and bowed. "I am honored to meet you, General. I have heard many stories of courage." Made a snorting sound. "It speaks how amusing." He turned away. "Follow, the council is waiting." The humans followed the alien soldiers through the station. The corridors were huge, built for species much larger than humans. Had to take 2 steps for every 1 step they took. She did not complain. She simply kept walking, her eyes taking in everything around her. Lieutenant walked beside her. They did not speak, but they did not need to. They had known each other for 5 years. They had trained together in places that did not officially exist. They had learned things that were not in any public record. The dandelion program was Earth's greatest secret. Named after the flower that looked weak but spread everywhere and could not be stopped. The program took humans with special abilities and trained them, not to be stronger than aliens. That was impossible, but to be smarter, faster, more efficient. had been in the program since she was 18. She had graduated at the top of her class. She knew the anatomy of every coalition species. She knew where their nerves were. She knew how their joints worked. She knew exactly how much force was needed to break them. But right now she was just a small woman in a pretty dress, harmless. The delegation reached the council chamber. It was a massive room with a domed ceiling. Seats rose in circles around a central platform. Representatives from dozens of species filled the seats. Some had tentacles. Some had wings. Some looked like nothing humans had ever imagined. On the central platform, seats had been set up for the negotiations. The human chairs were clearly meant as an insult. They were low to the ground and made of cheap material. The alien seats were tall and impressive. Ambassador sat without commenting on the insult. His team followed. Sat at the end of the row, her hands folded in her lap. She looked like a student waiting for a lecture to begin. General took his seat across from the humans. Commander Vex sat beside him. Other coalition leaders filled the remaining seats. "Let us begin," said. "Humanity has been discovered. You are now part of coalition space. There are rules you must follow." Ambassador nodded. "We are eager to learn about these rules and to discuss how Earth can participate in the coalition as an equal member." Silence fell over the chamber. Then laughter. It came from all around. Dozens of aliens laughing at the idea of humanity being equal to anyone. Yellow eyes gleamed with amusement. "Equal. Little human, you misunderstand your position. You are not here to negotiate as equals. You are here to receive your orders." Reached into her bag and pulled out a small ceramic cup and a container of tea. She poured herself a drink calmly while the aliens laughed at her people. She took a sip. The tea was good. She had a feeling she was going to need it. The negotiations went badly from the very first hour. Ambassador had expected difficulty. He had not expected complete dismissal. General pushed a data pad across the table. "These are the terms. Earth will surrender control of 3 colony worlds. You will pay tribute to the coalition every standard year. Your military will be reduced to a small defense force. In exchange, we will protect you from external threats." Looked at the data pad but did not pick it up. "And if we refuse?" Commander Vex leaned forward. His 4 eyes blinked one at a time. "You do not refuse. No species refuses. They learned this lesson long ago. We were once independent. Now we serve the coalition. Your humans will learn the same." "With respect," said, "Earth did not travel to the stars to become servants. We seek partnership, not submission." Scales shifted color slightly. This was a sign of annoyance in. "You have no choice in this matter. Your fleet is small. Your weapons are primitive. You have nothing we want except your obedience." Throughout this exchange, sat quietly at the end of the table. She had finished her first cup of tea and was pouring a second. The aliens ignored her completely. She was so small and so quiet that they forgot she was even there. But was not just sitting. She was watching. She noticed how the soldiers shifted their weight from leg to leg. She saw the small gap between their chest armor and their arm guards. She observed how Commander Vex's right shoulder moved stiffly, probably from an old injury that had not healed properly. She counted the guards in the room. 12, 8, all armed, all confident, all making the mistake of thinking size meant safety. Lieutenant sat next to. She was also watching, also counting. The 2 women had trained to do this without thinking about it. Every room was a battlefield waiting to happen. Every person was either an ally or a threat. There was no middle ground. Ambassador said, his voice growing colder, "I grow tired of this discussion. You will sign the agreement. If you do not, we will take what we want by force." Remained calm. "May I ask for time to consult with Earth? This decision affects all of humanity. It should not be made by one person." "You have 1 day," said. "Use it wisely." The meeting ended. The humans were escorted to their quarters. The quarters were small and uncomfortable, clearly designed to remind the humans of their low status. There was barely enough room for everyone to stand. As soon as the door closed, looked at his team. "Speak freely. The room is probably monitored, but I want honest opinions." The medical officer shook his head. "They have no intention of negotiating fairly. This is not diplomacy. This is conquest dressed in nice words." Nodded. "I agree. The soldiers in that room were not there for protection. They were there for intimidation. They expect us to break." "And if we don't break?" asked. "Then they will use force," said simply. "Probably tonight. They will make it look like an accident or blame it on some other faction. The coalition has done this before with other species." Turn 2, she was still holding her teacup, looking at the wall as if she was bored. "What do you think?" Took a small sip of tea. "The general favors his left leg. Old injury, probably from his military days. Commander Vex has limited motion in his right arm. The soldiers are well trained but overconfident. They practice the same combat forms without variation. They are strong but slow. Their reaction time is approximately 0.3 seconds slower than humans." The room went quiet, stared at her. He knew she was special, but hearing her speak like this was still surprising. "You learned all this from one meeting?" he asked. "I learned this from watching them walk, sit, and breathe," said. "Bodies tell stories. You just have to know how to read them." Nodded slowly. "So, what should we expect tonight?" Answered, "They will come around midnight. Probably 40 to 60 soldiers. Enough to overwhelm us quickly. They will take us hostage and force the ambassador to sign under threat." "Can we defend ourselves?" asked. Looked back. Something passed between them, an understanding. "Yes," said quietly, "we can." The hours passed slowly. The team prepared as much as they could, checked the small weapons they had been allowed to bring, prepared medical supplies, wrote messages to Earth in case they did not survive the night. Sat in a corner and closed her eyes. She was not sleeping. She was running through scenarios in her mind: 40 soldiers, 60 soldiers, narrow corridors, limited space. Their armor had weak points at the joints and neck. They were weaker at the knees than they appeared. When she opened her eyes, her face was still gentle and calm, but something had changed behind her eyes, something cold and focused. "They're coming," said, looking at a small device on her wrist. 40, 20. They're moving through the main corridor." Stood up. "How long?" 3 minutes. The ambassador looked at his small team. 2 soldiers, 1 doctor, 1 cultural, against 60 elite warriors from the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. "Any last advice?" he asked. Stood up and smoothed her dress. She was still wearing the same light blue outfit from the meeting, still looking like a delicate flower in a room full of thorns. "Stay in this room," she said. "Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone except me." Frowned. "What are you going to do?" Finished the last of her tea and set the cup down carefully. She walked to the door and paused. "I'm going to teach them something about human culture," she said. Before anyone could respond, she stepped out into the corridor. The door closed behind her. Was the only one who smiled. "May the stars have mercy on them," she whispered, "because she won't." The corridor was dark. The station had switched to night mode, with only small lights along the floor to guide the way. Stood alone in the middle of the hallway. Her light blue dress seemed to glow in the dim light. Her hands hung loosely at her sides. She could hear them coming. Heavy footsteps, metal scraping against metal, the deep breathing of creatures who had never learned to fear anything smaller than themselves. They came around the corner in perfect formation. 20 in the front, their scales reflecting the low light like dark mirrors. Behind them came 20 more, and behind those 20 warriors, their fur bristling with anticipation. Leading them was a captain named. He was young for only about 50 years old, which was the same as a human in their 20s. He had been given this mission as a reward for his loyalty. Capture the humans, make them suffer a little, force them to sign the treaty. Simple work for a simple night. When Saw standing alone in the corridor, he almost laughed. Almost. Something about the way she stood made him pause for just a moment. She was not running. She was not screaming. She was just standing there, as calm as if she was waiting for a transport. "Little human," called out, his voice echoing through the corridor. "Step aside. We have business with your leaders." Tilted her head slightly. "I'm afraid I can't let you pass." Now did laugh. The soldiers behind him joined in. The sound filled the corridor like thunder. "You can't let us pass," repeated. "There are 60 of us. You are one small female. What do you think you can do?" Smiled. It was a gentle smile, the kind a teacher might give to a student who had made an obvious mistake. "I think you should turn around and go back," she said. "This is your only warning." The laughter stopped. Eyes narrowed. He was not used to being challenged, especially not by something so fragile. "Enough games," he growled. "Seize her." 2 soldiers stepped forward. They were each 3 times her size. Their claws could tear through metal. They reached for her with complete confidence. Moved. It was not the kind of movement they expected. Humans were supposed to be slow, clumsy, easy to catch, but flowed like water around the first soldier's grasp. Her hand shot forward not as a fist but as a flat palm. She struck the gap between his chest armor and arm guard with perfect precision. The arm went limp. The nerve cluster she had hit controlled all movement in that limb. Before he could understand what had happened, her other hand struck his knee from the side. The joint was not designed to bend that way. It broke with a sound like cracking stone. The second soldier swung at her. She was already gone. She dropped low and swept his legs. As he fell, she caught his head and guided it into the wall, not hard enough to kill, just hard enough to end his participation in the fight. 2 soldiers down. Time elapsed 3 seconds. The corridor went silent, stared at the scene before him. 2 of his best warriors were on the ground, one clutching his broken leg, the other unconscious. "What are you waiting for?" shouted. "Take her." 10 soldiers charged at once. The corridor was wide, but not wide enough for 10 large to attack effectively. They got in each other's way. They blocked each other's swings. Had counted on this. She moved between them like a ghost. Every strike she made was calculated. She did not waste energy on attacks that would not work. She did not aim for their armored chests or their protected heads. She aimed for the places they thought were safe. A strike to the throat of one soldier, a kick to the back of another's knee, an elbow to the soft spot beneath a third's arm. She used their own momentum against them. When one lunged at her, she stepped aside and pushed him into his companions. When another swung a massive fist, she guided it past her and into the wall. In 12 seconds, 10 more soldiers were down. The remaining hesitated. This was not possible. This could not be happening. They had fought across a dozen worlds. They had crushed rebellions. They had broken armies. They were being defeated by a girl in a dress. Pushed through his soldiers. His pride would not allow him to retreat. He drew his personal weapon, a plasma blade that hummed with deadly energy. "I'll deal with her myself," he snarled. He attacked with all his skill. He was fast for a. His blade cut through the air in patterns meant to trap and kill. He had practiced these forms for 20 years. Read his movements like a book. She had seen these patterns before, in training videos the Dan Lyon program had collected. She knew where every strike would go before even started moving. She dodged 3 slashes, 4, 5. Each time she moved just enough to avoid the blade. No more, no less. She was conserving energy. On the 6th slash, she struck. Her hand caught his wrist at the exact moment when he was committed to the swing. She twisted. The plasma blade fell from his grip. Before it hit the ground, she had delivered 3 precise strikes to pressure points along his arm and chest. Collapsed, he was not dead, He was not even bleeding, but he could not move. His body had simply stopped responding to his commands. Picked up his plasma blade and switched it off. 32 down, she said calmly. 28 to go. Does anyone else want to continue? The remaining looked at each other. Fear was something they rarely felt. They were feeling it now. But they were not. They did not share the same fear response. Commander Vex's second-in-command, a massive warrior named, pushed forward. Are weak, growled, are not. The 20 warriors surged forward. They did not try to coordinate like the had. They simply attacked with overwhelming force. Had expected this. Were stronger than. Their fur provided natural armor against many attacks. Their bones were denser. They were harder to hurt. But they were also slower, and they relied on their strength too much. They never expected anyone to survive their first attack, so they never prepared for what came after. Let the first nearly reach her. At the last moment she dropped to the ground and rolled between his legs. As she passed beneath him, she struck both of his knees from behind. He fell forward, unable to stop his own momentum. She used his falling body as a platform, jumping off his back to reach the next warrior. A kick to the side of his head, a palm strike to his throat, an elbow to his eye. They fought back. They swung their massive arms. They tried to grab her. They tried to crush her against the walls. They hit nothing but air and each other. Was everywhere and nowhere. She was a shadow that struck and vanished. She was a whisper that brought pain. 1 minute, that was all it took. 1 minute for 20 warriors to fall. Stood in the middle of the corridor, surrounded by groaning bodies. Her dress was slightly wrinkled. Her hair had come loose from its tie, but she was not breathing hard. She was not injured. She looked at the security camera mounted on the wall. She knew General would be watching. She smiled at the camera. "We need to talk," she said, "about new terms." General stared at the screen in his command center. He had watched the entire fight. He had watched it 3 times now. Each time he noticed something new. Each time he understood less. 60 of his best soldiers had been sent to capture 5 humans. 60 soldiers who had fought in real wars. 60 soldiers who had never failed a mission. They had been defeated in less than 2 minutes by one human female. One small, delicate-looking female who should not have been able to lift a weapon, let alone use one. "Play it again," ordered. His aide, a young name, touched the control panel. The recording started over. Watched the human move. She was so fast, so precise. Every motion served a purpose. There was no wasted energy, no unnecessary movement. "Stop there," said. The image froze, was in mid-strike, her palm pressing against his arm. "Enhance that section." The image zoomed in. Could see exactly where her hand was positioned. It was directly over the nerve cluster that controlled arm movement. No one outside of medical training should have known that spot existed. "She knew," said slowly. "She knew exactly where to strike." "Perhaps it was luck," suggested weakly. Luck pointed at the screen. "Count the strikes. Every single one hits a weak point, joints, nerve clusters, pressure points. She knows our anatomy better than most doctors." Commander Vex entered the room. His fur was bristled with anger and shame. His best warriors were in the medical bay. Some would recover. Some would need extensive treatment. None of them could explain what had happened. "This is impossible," Vex growled. "Humans are prey. They have no natural weapons, no claws, no armor. They cannot do this." Turned to face him, and yet she did. Watch. The recording played again. Vex watched his warriors fall one by one. He saw how the human used their size against them. She never tried to block their attacks. She never tried to match their strength. She simply wasn't where they expected her to be. "She fights like water," Vex said quietly. "She flows around attacks. She finds the cracks and presses through." "Yes," agreed. "And that is what worries me. This is not natural talent. This is training, extensive, specific training, which means..." There are more like her, Vex finished. The two commanders looked at each other. They had made a terrible mistake. They had assumed humans were weak because they looked weak. They had judged them by their size and their soft skin. They had forgotten the most basic rule of the galaxy. The most dangerous creatures are often the ones you underestimate. Meanwhile, returned to the human quarters. The door opened and she stepped inside. Ambassador and the others stared at her. "Is it done?" asked. "It's done," said. She sat down and poured herself another cup of tea. Her hands were perfectly steady. Approached her slowly. As a doctor, he felt he should check her for injuries. "Are you hurt anywhere?" Shook her head. "I'm fine, they never touched me." Never looked at, "How is that possible?" Smiled slightly. The dandelion program spent years studying coalition species. We learned their biology, their combat techniques, their psychology. We developed methods specifically designed to counter them. But she struggled to find words that would not be insulting. "Small," suggested. She did not seem offended. "That's the point. The coalition expects warriors to be large and strong. They build their defenses against large and strong opponents. They have no idea how to fight someone like me." Walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "What happens now?" "Now we wait," said. "General will be reviewing the footage. He will realize that this was not an accident. He will understand that attacking us again will not work. That leaves him with two choices: accept negotiation or start a war he's not prepared for." "You think he'll negotiate?" "He's a general, not a fool. He'll negotiate." She was right. Within an hour, a message arrived from General. He requested a new meeting. His tone was very different from before. The next morning, the human delegation returned to the council chamber. The room felt different now. The alien representatives who had laughed at them before were silent. They had all seen the recording by now. They were looking at with new eyes. She sat in the same seat as before. She wore the same style of dress, this time in soft green. Her teacup sat in front of her. She looked exactly like she had on the first day. Gentle, harmless, delicate. But no one in the room believed that anymore. General entered. He walked to his seat slowly. For the first time, he bowed to Ambassador before sitting down. "Ambassador," said, his voice was careful, controlled. "It seems we have misunderstood each other." Nodded politely. "Misunderstandings happen, General. The important thing is to correct them." Scales shifted colors. He was uncomfortable. This was not a feeling he was used to. The coalition may have been too aggressive in our initial proposals. Perhaps we should discuss alternative arrangements. "We would be happy to discuss alternatives," said. "Earth wants peace. We want trade. We want to learn from the coalition and share our own knowledge, but we will not accept submission." Commander Vex spoke up. His voice was rough but respectful. How many like her does Earth have?" Answered before could speak. "Enough." That single word hung in the air. Enough. It could mean 10. It could mean 10,000. The aliens had no way of knowing, and that uncertainty was more powerful than any specific number. Studied carefully. "What are you exactly? You are not a normal human." "I am exactly what I appear to be," said. "A cultural. My job is to help other species understand human culture." "And what should we understand from this? Cultural exchange." Took a sip of her tea. "You should understand that humans survive. We have survived ice ages that killed most life on our planet. We have survived diseases that wiped out millions. We have survived wars against ourselves. We are small. We are soft. We have no claws or scales or natural armor, and yet we are still here." She set down her cup. "Do you know what a dandelion is, General?" Shook his head. "It is a flower from Earth, a very small flower. Most people think it is weak. They try to remove it from their gardens, they pull it out, they poison it, they burn it, but dandelions always come back. Their seeds spread on the wind, they grow in cracks in stone. They survive where other plants cannot. They are the most successful flower on our planet. Smiled her gentle smile. Humans are like dandelions, General. You can try to remove us. You can try to crush us. But we will always come back. We will always find a way. That is what humans do. That is what you should understand about our culture. The room was completely silent. Every alien representative was listening. Many were reconsidering everything they had believed about humanity. General was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. Perhaps, he said, the coalition needs allies more than it needs servants. Ambassador smiled. I think we can work with that. The negotiations lasted 3 more days, but they were very different from the first meeting. There was no more laughter at human expense. There were no more threats or insults. The coalition representatives treated the humans with careful respect. Ambassador worked tirelessly. He was a skilled diplomat, and now that the other side was actually listening, he could show his true abilities. He argued for fair terms. He pushed back against unreasonable demands. He found compromises that benefited both sides. Sat through every meeting. She did not speak much. She did not need to. Her presence was enough. Every time a coalition representative started to become aggressive, they would glance at her. They would remember the recording. They would calm down. She had become the most powerful weapon in the room, not because of what she could do, but because of what everyone knew she could do. On the final day, the treaty was ready. It was nothing like the original proposal. Earth would not surrender any colonies. Earth would not pay tribute. Instead, there would be trade agreements, technology sharing, cultural exchange programs. Earth would join the coalition as a full member with equal rights. General signed the treaty first. His hand hesitated for just a moment over the document. Then he pressed his claw to the signature pad. It was done. This is a historic day, said. He did not sound entirely happy about it, but he accepted the reality. The coalition welcomes humanity as partners. Sign next. Earth is honored to join the coalition. We look forward to a future of cooperation and mutual benefit. The ceremony was broadcast across coalition space. Billions of beings watched as humans officially became part of galactic civilization. Many of them were confused. They had heard stories about weak, primitive humans. They had expected to see a conquered species accepting its fate. Instead, they saw humans standing as equals. They saw coalition leaders treating them with respect. And when the recording of fight leaked, they understood why. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Aliens and humans mingled in a large hall filled with food and drink from dozens of worlds. It was awkward at first. Species that had never met tried to find common ground. Translators worked overtime to help everyone communicate. Stood near a window looking out at the stars. She held her teacup as always. The ceramic was chipped now, cracked during her fight in the corridor, but she would not replace it. It was a reminder. Commander Vex approached her. He moved carefully as if approaching a dangerous animal, which, thought with some amusement, was not entirely wrong. "May I speak with you?" Vex asked. Nodded, "Of course, Commander." Vex stood beside her, looking out at the same stars. He was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "I have fought for 40 years, he said finally. "I have faced enemies twice my size. I have killed things that haunt my nightmares. I am not easily frightened." He turned to look at her directly. "You frighten me." Met his gaze calmly. "That was not my intention." "No, I think your intention was exactly that." Vex's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "My warriors are still recovering. Some of them may never fight again. And you did not even break their bones. You simply broke them." "I could have killed them," said quietly. "Every strike I made was controlled. I chose not to cause permanent damage. They will heal." "Why?" Vex asked. "You could have killed them. We would have deserved it. We came to capture your people, to hurt them. Why did you hold back?" Was quiet for a moment. "Because death is easy. Living with defeat is hard. Your soldiers will remember what happened. They will tell others. And every time someone thinks about attacking humans, they will remember this story. They will hesitate. That hesitation will save lives on both sides. Vex considered this. You think far ahead. I was trained to think far ahead. The commander nodded slowly. Your dandelion program, I have been researching it. There is almost no information available. Very secret, very mysterious. He paused. Very clever. We learned from watching the galaxy, said. We saw how the coalition treated weaker species. We knew we could not match your strength or your technology, so we found another way. The way of the small flower that cannot be killed. Smiled, you remembered. I will remember many things from this week, Vex said. There was something in his voice that might have been respect. I hope we never have to face each other as enemies again. I hope so too, Commander. Vex nodded once more and walked away, watched him go. She felt no anger toward him or his soldiers. They had been doing what they thought was right. They had been following orders. They did not know any better. Now they did. Lieutenant joined her at the window. The commander seems thoughtful. He's learning, said. They're all learning. Looked at her old friend and training partner. How are you feeling, really? Was quiet for a moment. Tired. I haven't slept well since we arrived. The adrenaline is finally wearing off. You did well, better than well. You changed the course of human history. We all did, corrected. Ambassador did the real work, I just made them listen. Laughed softly, that's one way to put it. They stood together in comfortable silence watching the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, home. It seemed very far away. What happens now? Asked. Now we go home, said. We report to command, we train the next generation, and we wait. Wait for what? For the next time someone underestimates humanity. The human delegation left Station Orbital Prime the next day. General personally escorted them to their ship. It was a gesture of respect that would have been unthinkable a week ago. At the airlock, stopped in front of, he towered over her, nearly 3 times her height. But he did not look down at her with contempt anymore. His yellow eyes showed something closer to wonder. Before you go, he said, I must ask, that first day when we laughed at you, when we called you weak, what were you thinking? Looked up at him, her gentle smile returned. I was thinking that you reminded me of the bullies I knew as a child, big, loud, confident. They always thought their size made them strong. And what happened to those bullies? I taught them the same lesson I taught your soldiers. Size is not strength. True strength comes from here. She touched her temple. And here, she touched her heart. Was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he bowed. It was a deep bow, the kind gave only to respected warriors. Travel safely, little dandelion, he said. May the stars guide your path. Bowed in return. May your scales never dull, General, until we meet again. She walked onto the ship without looking back. The airlock closed. The engines hummed to life. Slowly, the human vessel pulled away from the station and turned toward home. In the observation deck, Ambassador stood with his team. They watched the station grow smaller in the distance. Well, said, that was certainly an interesting week. Laughed nervously. Interesting is one word for it. I think I've aged 10 years. But we did it, said. We got the treaty we wanted, equal membership, fair terms, no tribute. Thanks too, said. He turned to look at her. She was sitting in a corner, finally sleeping. Her teacup rested in her hands, empty but still warm. No, said softly. Thanks to humanity. She just reminded them what we're capable of when we have no choice but to survive. The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. The stars stretched into lines of light. And somewhere in the galaxy, the story of the delicate girl who defeated 60 warriors spread from world to world. It became legend, a warning, a promise. Never underestimate a human, especially the ones who smile when they should be afraid. because behind that smile might be a dandelion, and dandelions never die.